At 3:47 in the morning, I stood alone in a Las Vegas wedding chapel, my hands trembling as I smoothed down the simple white dress I'd bought at Target 6 hours earlier. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear the muted sounds of slot machines and drunken laughter filtering through the walls. Elvis, or rather, a 60-year-old man in a rhinestone jumpsuit, cleared his throat and checked his watch for the third time. "Miss, are you sure he's coming?" he asked. Not unkindly. I pressed my phone against my chest, feeling my heart hammer beneath it. The screen showed 3:47 a.m., and Michael's last text, sent 20 minutes ago, simply said, "I'm coming. Mom is losing her mind, but I'm coming." But that was 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes of standing here in this tacky chapel with plastic flowers and velvet Elvis paintings, wondering if I just made the biggest mistake of my life. Or the smartest decision. My phone buzzed. Not Michael. Victoria. My future mother-in-law. The woman who had, over the course of 8 weeks, systematically hijacked every single aspect of my wedding, until it became unrecognizable. The woman whose call at 11:17 last night had finally broken something inside me that couldn't be fixed. I didn't open her message. I knew what it would say. Some variation of, "How could you?" Or, "You're ruining everything," or, "Think of what people will say." As if I hadn't been thinking about what people would say every single day for the past 2 months. As if her opinion of me had ever mattered half as much as my own sanity. 5 more minutes, I told Elvis. "If he's not here in 5 more minutes, I'll pay you for your time and go." He nodded, settled into a folding chair, and started scrolling through his phone. I closed my eyes and let myself remember how I'd gotten here. 8 weeks ago, I'd been happy. Deliriously, stupidly happy. Michael had proposed on a beach in Santa Barbara, just the two of us and the sunset, exactly the way I'd always dreamed. We'd driven home with the ring sparkling on my finger and spent the entire ride planning our future. Small wedding, we'd agreed. Intimate. 50 people maximum. My college friends, his childhood buddies, close family. A garden ceremony at that little venue in Ojai I'd been in love with since my cousin's wedding 3 years ago. Farm-to-table dinner. Wildflower bouquets. Personal vows that would make us cry. The kind of day that would actually feel like us. I should have known it was too good to last. The next morning, Victoria invited us to brunch. Michael's mother was a force of nature, a successful event planner who'd coordinated everything from celebrity weddings to corporate galas. She had opinions about everything, from the correct way to fold napkins to the proper length of a toast. But she'd always been warm to me, if a bit intense. I'd thought we had a good relationship. I'd thought she respected me. "Darling. Congratulations," she'd said, kissing my cheek before we'd even sat down. "I've been up all night thinking about the wedding. I have so many ideas. Michael, did you know the Rosewood estate just had a cancellation for June 15th? I pulled some strings. They're holding it for us, but we need to decide by tomorrow." I'd blinked, confused. "That's sweet of you to check, Victoria. But we were actually thinking about the garden venue in Ojai. It's smaller. More intimate." "Ojai." She'd laughed, actually laughed, as if I'd suggested we get married in a gas station parking lot. "Emma, sweetheart, no. The Rosewood is perfect. It's where the tech CEO's daughter got married last year. The photos were in vogue. And they can accommodate up to 300 guests." 300? My voice had come out higher than intended. "Victoria, we were thinking 50. Maybe 75 at most." 50? She'd set down her mimosa, her perfectly manicured hand pressing against her chest as if I'd wounded her. "Honey, I have 120 people on my must-invite list alone. Michael's father's business associates, our family, friends, the people who've known Michael since he was born. You can't just exclude them. What would people think?" Michael had reached for my hand under the table. "Mom, we want something small. Intimate. You'll regret it," she'd said firmly. "Trust me. I've planned 200 weddings. Small weddings always feel sad, like you're apologizing for something. This is a celebration. This is the beginning of your life together. Don't you want it to be spectacular?" I should have held firm right then. I should have said, Thank you, but no. But Victoria had this way of making you feel like saying no was not just wrong, but cruel. Like you were disappointing her. Like you were ungrateful. Let's just look at the rosewood, Michael had said quietly. It can't hurt to look. That's how it started. With just looking. With just considering. With just being flexible. The rosewood was objectively stunning. Manicured gardens, a ballroom with crystal chandeliers, a terrace overlooking the valley. It was also 4 times more expensive than the Ojai venue. But Victoria had waved that away. Consider it our gift, she'd said. We're happy to cover the venue. What kind of parents would we be if we didn't help with our only son's wedding? I'd felt Michael squeeze my hand. He was an only child, and his parents had resources. My family didn't. My parents were planning to contribute what they could, maybe $5,000, but that was it. The wedding I'd been envisioning would have cost around $20,000 total. The Rosewood venue alone was $30,000. That's incredibly generous, I'd said carefully. But Victoria, if we're using this venue, we really do want to keep the guest list small. The space is so big, 50 people would feel lost. Oh, don't worry about that, she'd said brightly. I've already been working on the list. We're at about 180 right now, but I'm sure we can trim it. 180. When we'd said 50. I'd opened my mouth to protest, but Michael had given me a look that said, let's talk about this later. So I'd smiled and nodded and let it go. That was my first mistake. Every time I let something go, Victoria took it as permission to push further. The guest list became 200. Then 220. I can't not invite the Hendersons, she'd explain. They invited us to their daughter's wedding. And if we invite the Hendersons, we have to invite the Chens, or it looks like we're playing favorites. The farm-to-table dinner became a 7-course menu that Victoria selected with the chef. Trust me, darling, this is what people expect at an evening wedding. The wildflower bouquets became elaborate orchid and rose arrangements that cost more than my monthly rent. We wanted to photograph well. My simple white dress became a designer gown that Victoria picked out during a surprise shopping trip she'd organized with my mother and sisters. I'd loved my original choice, a simple A-line with delicate lace. Victoria's choice was a massive ball gown with a 12-foot train that required 3 people to bustle. You'll look like a princess, she'd gushed. And my mother, God love her, had actually teared up and said it was beautiful. How could I say no? Every time I tried to push back, Victoria had a reason why her way was better. Every time I tried to talk to Michael about it, he'd say, she's just excited, Em. She's just trying to help. Can you just let her have this? Let her have this. As if it was her wedding. As if I was being selfish for wanting any say in my own day. 6 weeks before the wedding, I tried one more time. We'd been at Victoria's house for dinner, and she'd been showing me the seating chart she'd created. I've put your college friends at table 14, she'd said, pointing to a table near the kitchen entrance. And your cousins at table 16. That way, the important guests, Michael's father's business partners, and our close family friends can be near the front. Something hot and sharp had twisted in my chest. Victoria, those are my closest friends. Some of them are flying across the country. I'd like them closer to us. She'd barely glanced up. Emma, honey, I've been doing this for 30 years. Trust me on the seating. You want to keep your VIPs happy. My friends are VIPs to me. Sweetheart. She'd set down her pen and looked at me with that patient smile that made me feel like a child. This wedding reflects on our family now. You're marrying into a family with a certain social standing. People are watching. We need everything to be perfect. Your friends will understand. They're my friends, not extras in the background. Emma. Michael's voice had been quiet but firm. Mom's spent weeks on this seating chart. Can you just let it go? I'd looked at him, really looked at him, and realized he wasn't on my side. He was on hers. He'd been on hers this whole time. Every time I'd tried to speak up, he'd asked me to compromise. Every time I'd said I was uncomfortable, he'd told me I was overreacting. He loved me, I knew he loved me, but he loved avoiding conflict with his mother more. I'd left dinner early that night with a headache. Or that's what I'd told them. Really, I just needed to cry in my car for 20 minutes before I could drive home. But I'd told myself it was fine. It was just 8 hours. One day, 8 hours of playing dress up in a wedding that didn't feel like mine, and then it would be over and we'd be married and we could start our real life together. I'd made it all the way to last night believing that lie. Last night, I'd been at my apartment, trying to finalize the timeline with our day of coordinator. It was 11:03 when my phone rang. Victoria. Emma, darling, I hope I'm not calling too late. It's fine, I'd said, though I'd been about to get ready for bed. What's up? I just finished the final seating chart, and I wanted to run something by you. I've been thinking about the head table, and I really feel we should do a traditional setup. Michael and you in the center, obviously. Then his father and I on either side of Michael, and your parents on either side of you. It makes for better photos, and it's more formal. I'd frowned. I thought we were doing a sweetheart table. Just Michael and me. A sweetheart table? She'd sounded genuinely horrified. Emma, no. That's so impersonal. Your wedding party and parents will want to be up there with you. This is a family celebration. Victoria, I really want the sweetheart table. Michael and I talked about it. It's one of the few things I asked for. Sweetheart, I know you think you want that, but trust me, you'll regret it. You'll be isolated from everyone. It'll make for awkward photos. And frankly, it sends the message that you don't value family. My hands had started shaking. It doesn't send that message. It sends the message that the bride and groom want a moment to themselves. At their own wedding? Emma, that's bizarre. No, I've already told the venue about the head table setup. It's done. It's not done, I'd said, my voice rising despite myself. This is my wedding. I want a sweetheart table. There'd been a long pause. Then Victoria's voice had turned cold. Your wedding. I see. The wedding that my husband and I are paying $50,000 for. The wedding that I've spent 8 weeks of my life planning while you've done nothing but complain and nitpick. The wedding that could make or break our family's reputation. That wedding? My throat had closed up. I didn't mean. No, clearly you did. You've made it very clear that our contributions don't matter. That our family doesn't matter. Fine, Emma. Have your sweetheart table. Sit there alone while everyone else wonders why you're so antisocial. See if I care. She'd hung up. I'd stood there, phone in hand, feeling like I'd been slapped. Then, because I was stupid and still trying to fix things, I'd called Michael. Hey, babe, he'd answered groggily. What's wrong? Your mother just called me. At 11 at night? What did she want? I'd explained the head table argument. There'd been a long silence. She spent a lot of time on this wedding. I know, but... And honestly, a head table does make more sense. We're going to be talking to our parents and wedding party all night anyway. Why isolate ourselves? Because I want one thing, Michael. One thing that's actually what I asked for. You're being really ungrateful right now. The words had hit me like ice water. Ungrateful? My parents are paying for most of this wedding. The least you could do is be flexible about the details. Flexible? Michael. I've been flexible about everything. The venue, the guest list, the flowers, the dress, the menu, the seating chart. Everything is what your mother wants. I just want one thing. Then maybe we should have had the cheap wedding you wanted, he'd snapped. Then you could have made all the decisions yourself. But you wanted to accept my parents' help, and now you don't want to compromise. I'd hung up on him. I'd never hung up on him before in our 3 years together. But I couldn't listen to one more word. Then I'd sat on my couch, and a strange calm had settled over me. I'd pulled out my laptop and looked at my calendar. The wedding was in 12 days. 12 more days of this. 12 more days of swallowing my feelings and playing the grateful daughter-in-law and pretending this was fine. 12 more days of building up to a wedding that felt like a performance for people I didn't know, celebrating a relationship where my fiancé called me ungrateful for wanting literally anything I'd asked for. Or, I'd opened a new browser tab. Flights to Las Vegas. It was insane. It was impulsive. It was something the old Emma would never do. The old Emma was a people pleaser. The old Emma avoided conflict. The old Emma bent and bent and bent until she didn't recognize herself anymore. But what if I didn't? What if 37 people showed up to a $50,000 wedding to find out the bride was gone? What if Michael had to explain to his mother's VIP guests that his fiancé had disappeared? What if I married the man I loved on my own terms, in a place where nobody could tell me I was doing it wrong? The idea had made my hands shake. It had made my stomach flip. It had also made me feel more alive than I'd felt in 2 months. I'd booked a flight, leaving at 6:20 the next morning. I'd texted my best friend Amber. Emergency. Can you cover for me at work tomorrow? I'll explain later. Then I'd started packing. Michael had called 4 times. Victoria had called twice. I'd ignored them all. Instead, I'd pulled out my smallest suitcase and packed the essentials. Underwear. Phone charger. Toothbrush. The simple white sundress I'd worn on our first date. A cardigan. Sneakers. At 1:47 in the morning, my phone had buzzed with a text from Michael. I'm sorry. I was an ass. Can we talk tomorrow? I'd stared at that text for a long time. Then I'd typed. McCarran Airport, Las Vegas. Terminal 1. My flight lands at 9:42 a.m. If you love me more than you love avoiding conflict with your mother, you'll meet me there. We can get married today. Just us. No guests, no venue, no seating chart. Just you and me and someone who can legally marry us. If you're not there by 11 a.m., I'll know your answer. I'd hit send, before I could second guess it. His reply had been immediate. What? What are you talking about? Me. I'm talking about choosing me. For once. I'm talking about us getting married because we want to be married, not because we want to throw a party for your mother's business associates. I'm talking about you deciding what matters more, me or everyone else's opinions. 11 a.m. Terminal 1. Michael. This is crazy. Me? Yes. Michael. You want me to just drop everything and fly to Vegas? Me? Yes. Michael. My parents will lose their minds. Me, I know. Micah. Me, 11 a.m., Michael. I'll be waiting. Then I'd turned off my phone, finished packing, and tried to sleep for 3 hours. I hadn't succeeded. The Uber to LAX had been surreal. Los Angeles at 4:30 in the morning was quiet, almost peaceful. I'd watched the streetlights blur past and wondered if I was having some kind of breakdown. Normal people didn't flee to Vegas the night before they were supposed to finalize wedding details. Normal people didn't give their fiancés ultimatums via text. But normal people also didn't let themselves be erased from their own weddings. At the airport, I turned my phone back on long enough to check in for my flight. The messages had flooded in immediately. Victoria. Michael says you're upset. Please call me so we can work this out like adults. Victoria. Emma, this is ridiculous. We need to finalize the seating chart today. Victoria, I don't know what Michael said to you, but I'm sure it's a misunderstanding. Please call me. My mother. Honey, Victoria called me. She says you're not answering your phone. Is everything okay? Amber called in sick for you. Are you okay? Should I be worried? Michael, where are you? Michael. Please talk to me. Michael. Are you seriously going to Vegas? I'd turned the phone off again and boarded the plane. The flight had been only an hour, but it had felt like crossing into another dimension. I'd pressed my forehead against the window and watched California disappear beneath the clouds, and for the first time in 8 weeks, I'd felt like I could breathe. In Vegas, I'd checked into a cheap hotel near the Strip, showered, changed into the white sundress, and gone shopping. Target had a surprisingly decent selection of simple white dresses. I'd found one with lace sleeves for $43. Then I'd gone to a jewelry store and bought a pair of simple silver earrings. $26. The whole outfit had cost less than the deposit on my designer wedding dress. I'd spent the rest of the morning walking up and down the Strip, looking at wedding chapels. There were dozens of them, the Elvis chapel, the drive-through chapel, the chapel that looked like a Gothic cathedral. I'd chosen the Elvis one because it made me laugh. Because this whole thing was absurd. Because if I was going to blow up my life, I might as well do it with a sense of humor. I'd turned on my phone at 10:53. The messages had been apocalyptic. Victoria. Emma Grace Thompson. You call me right now. Victoria. Michael says you're in Las Vegas. This is unacceptable. Victoria. Do you have any idea what you're doing to this family? My mother, Victoria, is very upset. Please call her. My sister. What is going on? And then, at 11:02, from Michael, I'm at LAX. Getting on the 12:30 flight. I'll be there by 2. Don't do anything until I get there. I'd stared at that message until my eyes burned. He was coming. He was actually coming. I'd sat down on a bench, outside the Flamingo, and cried for 10 minutes straight. He'd sent updates throughout the afternoon. 12:47 p.m. Boarded. 2:16 p.m. Landed. Getting an Uber. 2:53 p.m. at the hotel. Where are you? I'd sent him the address of the Elvis Chapel. 3:17 p.m. On my way. Mom called me 14 times. I turned off my phone. That message had made me cry again. At 3:30, I'd arrived at the chapel. Elvis had assured me they could do a ceremony any time. We're Vegas, honey. We run 24/7. And now it was 3:47, and Michael still wasn't here, and I was starting to think he'd changed his mind. That he'd gotten halfway here and realized this was insane. That he'd turned around and gone back to his mother and the $50,000 wedding and the life that made sense. My phone buzzed again. Michael. Parking. 2 minutes. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Elvis looked up. That him? I think so. Good. I was starting to worry about you, kid. 90 seconds later, the chapel door opened. Michael stood there in jeans and the Stanford hoodie I'd bought him for Christmas, his hair disheveled, his eyes wild. He had a duffel bag slung over one shoulder, and he looked like he'd been through a war. Hi. He said. Hi, I whispered. We stared at each other. I'm here, he said unnecessarily. I see that. My mother is going to have an aneurysm. I know. The venue is going to charge us the full amount anyway. We already paid the deposit. We're going to lose $50,000. I know. Everyone we invited is going to show up in 12 days, and there won't be a wedding. I know. He set down his bag. I don't care. My breath caught. He crossed the chapel in 4 long strides and took my hands. His were shaking. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. I let her take over. I let her make you feel like your opinions didn't matter. I told you to be flexible and grateful when you should have been able to be yourself. I was so afraid of disappointing her that I kept disappointing you. I'm so sorry. Michael. On the plane, I made a list. Every time in the last 8 weeks when I should have stood up for you and I didn't. It was 17 times, 17 times I chose keeping the peace over choosing you. That's 17 times too many. Why didn't you stand up for me? I asked. And my voice cracked. Because it was easier not to. Because my mom is intense, and it's always been easier to just go along with what she wants. Because I grew up learning that disagreeing with her meant hours of guilt trips and silent treatment, so I learned not to disagree. But you're not supposed to be another person I just go along with. You're supposed to be my partner. My equal. The person I choose even when it's hard. He cupped my face in his hands. I'm choosing you now. I'm sorry it took me almost losing you to figure out how. I was crying. He was crying too. I don't need a fancy wedding, I said. I never did. I just needed to feel like it was ours. So let's make it ours, he said. Let's get married right now, in this ridiculous chapel, with Elvis as our witness. And then let's go home and deal with the fallout together. As a team. As partners who actually have each other's backs. Your mother is going to kill us. Probably, he agreed. But you know what? That's her problem to deal with. Not ours. I laughed through my tears. When did you get so wise? About 3 hours ago, somewhere over Arizona, when I realized I was about to lose the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too chicken shit to disappoint my mother. Elvis cleared his throat. So are we doing this or what? Because I've got another wedding at 4:30. Michael looked at me. Are we doing this? I looked at the tacky plastic flowers and the velvet Elvis paintings and the man in the rhinestone jumpsuit who'd agreed to marry us at 3 in the morning. It was nothing like the wedding I'd spent months imagining. And it was perfect. We're doing this, I said. Elvis grinned. All right then. Let's get you two kids married. The ceremony took 7 minutes. Elvis sang Can't Help Falling in Love in a surprisingly good voice. Michael and I said simple vows promises we wrote on the spot about choosing each other and being partners and never letting anyone make us feel small. We exchanged the rings we'd already bought for the other wedding. Elvis pronounced us husband and wife. Michael kissed me like we had all the time in the world. The whole thing cost $218. When it was over, we stood on the chapel steps in the Las Vegas heat, married, and turned our phones back on. The explosion was immediate. Victoria had called Michael 23 times. She'd called me 11 times. She'd sent a novella worth of text messages that ranged from concerned to furious to guilt-tripping to threatening. My mother had called 6 times, all her messages some variation of, "Please call Victoria back, she's very upset." Michael's father had sent one text. "Son, you need to handle this." My sisters had created a group chat called What Is Happening with approximately 70 messages. And then there was a message from Carmen, Michael's cousin, who'd been helping with some of the wedding planning. All it said was, "I'm so proud of you. Also, Aunt Viv is melting down and it's kind of amazing. Call me later." Michael looked at me. "Ready?" "Not even a little bit." "Me neither." He took my hand. "Let's call them together." We sat on the chapel steps, and Michael called his mother on speakerphone. She answered on the first ring. "Michael Joseph Peterson, where the hell are you?" "Hi, Mom." "Don't hi Mom me. Do you have any idea what you've put me through today? I've been calling and calling. I had to cancel our meeting with the caterer because I was so upset I couldn't function. Your father is furious. Emma's mother is beside herself. The venue has been calling asking about final headcount. Where are you?" "I'm in Las Vegas." Silence. Then, "You're what?" "I'm in Vegas. With Emma. We got married." The sound that came through the phone was not quite a scream, and not quite a gasp. It was something primal. "You got married? Without telling anyone? Without your family there?" "Michael, this is I can't even how could you do this to me?" "Mom," Michael said, and his voice was steady in a way I'd never heard before, "I didn't do anything to you. Emma and I got married. For us. Not for you, not for Dad's business partners, not for Instagram photos. For us. But the wedding. The venue. The deposits. We've spent $50,000. I know. And I'm sorry about the money. Really, I am. Emma and I will pay you back, even if it takes years. It's not about the money." Victoria's voice cracked. "It's about the humiliation. What am I supposed to tell people? That my son ran off to Vegas like some impulsive teenager? That Emma couldn't be bothered to have a real wedding? Tell them we chose each other," I said quietly. "Tell them we decided what mattered most. Emma." Victoria's voice was cold. "This is your fault. You put these ideas in his head. You convinced him to do this." "No," Michael said firmly. "Emma set a boundary. She asked me to choose her. And I did. For the first time in this entire wedding planning process, I actually chose my fiancé, my wife, over your expectations. I should have done it 8 weeks ago. I was trying to give you a beautiful wedding. I was trying to make it special. You were trying to make it what you wanted," Michael said, not unkindly. "And I let you, because that's what I've always done. But Mom, I'm married now. Emma is my family. She comes first. She should have come first all along." There was a long silence. Then Victoria said, very quietly, "I see. Mom. No. I understand. Your wife is more important than your mother. That's the way it should be, I suppose. Even if your mother is the one who raised you and sacrificed for you and wanted nothing more than to see you happy. Michael closed his eyes. That's not fair. Isn't it? Well. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope it was everything you dreamed of. I'll deal with the venue and the vendors tomorrow. I assume you won't be needing the wedding you so ungratefully rejected. She hung up. Michael sat there, holding the phone, looking shattered. Hey, I said softly. Look at me. He did. You did the right thing. She's going to guilt-trip me about this for the rest of my life. Probably, I agreed. But you know what? We're going to set boundaries about that too. Together. He pulled me close, and we sat there on the steps of an Elvis chapel in Las Vegas, newly married, phones buzzing with increasingly frantic messages from family members, and somehow, it felt right. What now? Michael asked. Now we go back to our hotel, order room service, and be married for a few hours before we have to deal with reality. And then? And then we go home. We apologize for the disruption. We offer to pay your parents back. And we start our marriage, the way we should have started wedding planning as a team. My phone rang. My mother. I answered. Hi, Mom. Emma, honey, Victoria is very upset. I know. She said you and Michael eloped. We did. There was a pause. Then my mother said. Was it what you wanted? I looked at Michael, at our intertwined hands, at the gaudy chapel behind us. Yes, I said. It was exactly what I wanted. Then congratulations, sweetheart. Your father and I are happy for you. We'll send a gift. I blinked back tears. Thanks, Mom. Victoria will get over it eventually. Or she won't. Either way, it's not your problem. You're allowed to want what you want. After I hung up, Michael and I walked back to our hotel, hand in hand, through the glittering chaos of Las Vegas. Tourists stumbled past, street performers called out, music blared from open casino doors. It was tacky and loud and completely perfect. In our hotel room, we ordered pizza and champagne, a ridiculous combination that made us both laugh. We toasted to terrible decisions and better boundaries and marriages that belong to the people in them. I can't believe we did that, Michael said. I can't believe you came. I can't believe you thought I wouldn't. You almost didn't. I pointed out. No, he said seriously. I was always going to come. I just needed a few hours to work up the courage to disappoint my mother. But the minute I got your text, I knew. There was never really a choice. Of course I was going to choose you. Even with the fallout? Especially with the fallout. Because the fallout means I finally stood up for something that mattered. For someone who matters. For us. We spent our wedding night in a mid-range Vegas hotel, eating cold pizza, and talking about what came next. We'd go home in 2 days. We'd face Victoria's anger together. We'd call all the guests and apologize and explain. We'd deal with the financial fallout. We'd set boundaries with Michael's parents about what our marriage would look like going forward. It wouldn't be easy. Victoria wasn't going to forgive us overnight. Some of Michael's family members would probably take her side. There would be awkward holidays and stilted phone calls and a long road to any kind of peace. But we'd do it together. And maybe that was the point. Maybe marriage wasn't about the perfect wedding, or the right venue, or making everyone happy. Maybe it was about two people deciding they were worth fighting for. Worth standing up for. Worth choosing, even when the choice was hard. The next morning, I posted a single photo to Instagram. It was Michael and me on the chapel steps, his arm around my waist, both of us grinning like idiots. My $43 Target dress. His Stanford hoodie. Elvis visible in the background. The caption was simple. Married my best friend yesterday. Wouldn't change a thing. The comments came pouring in immediately. Most were supportive. Some were confused. A few from Michael's mother's friends were clearly passive-aggressive. Carmen commented. This is perfect. Can't wait to hear the whole story. Congrats. My college roommate. Oh my God, you legend. I'm dying. Congrats, babe. And then, 3 hours later, a comment from Victoria. Well, I suppose congratulations are in order, even if this isn't how I imagined celebrating my son's marriage. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't warm. But it was something. A first step. Michael called her that afternoon. I sat next to him, listening. Mom, he said. I'm sorry we hurt you. That wasn't our intention. But I'm not sorry we got married the way we did. It was right for us. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I spent 8 weeks planning that wedding. I know. I wanted it to be perfect for you. I know. But it stopped being for me somewhere along the way. It became about impressing people. And I don't need to impress anyone. I just need to be married to Emma. Another long pause. She's really important to you. She's everything to me. More important than your mother? Different kind of important, Michael said gently. You're my mother. You'll always be my mother, and I love you. But Emma is my wife. She's my partner. She's the person I'm building a life with. And if I can't prioritize her, then I have no business being married. I heard Victoria sigh through the phone. I suppose I understand that. Intellectually. I'm not asking you to be happy about how we did this. But I am asking you to respect it. And going forward, I'm asking you to respect that Emma and I make decisions together. About our life. Our home. Someday, our kids. We'll listen to your advice, but we get final say. I'm your mother. I'm always going to have opinions. I know. And we'll welcome your opinions. But they're just that, opinions. Not mandates. There was a very long silence. Then Victoria said, Your father wants to take you both to dinner. When you get back. To celebrate, officially. We'd like that. Emma too, Victoria added, and it sounded like it physically pained her. I suppose she's family now. After he hung up, Michael looked at me. That was a start, I finished. Yeah. We flew home the next day. My apartment had never looked more welcoming. We spent the afternoon calling people my parents, his dad, our wedding party, close friends. Everyone had questions. Most were understanding. A few thought we were insane. My maid of honor told me she was both horrified and impressed. Over the next week, we dealt with the logistics. The venue kept the deposit but refunded about 30% of what we'd paid. We sent a message to all the guests explaining that we decided to have a private ceremony and apologizing for any inconvenience. Most people were gracious. Some were clearly offended. Michael's business school friends threw us a surprise party at a bar, a wedding reception with a $10 cake from Safeway and a playlist of Elvis songs. It was chaotic and ridiculous and absolutely perfect. Victoria and Michael's father took us to dinner at a fancy restaurant downtown. It was awkward. Victoria made several comments about spontaneous decisions and proper planning. But she also gave me a wedding gift, a set of crystal wine glasses that had been her grandmother's. It was a peace offering, I thought. Or at least a truce. These are beautiful, I said. Thank you. Well, Victoria said, every marriage needs good wine glasses. Lord knows you'll need wine dealing with my son. Michael laughed. Thanks, Mom. She almost smiled. Just promise me one thing. What? If you have children, let me at least be involved in the baby shower planning. Give me something. Michael looked at me. I looked at him. We promised to consider your input, he said carefully. And to make decisions together. As a family. Victoria sighed. I suppose that's the best I'm going to get. It is, Michael said. Then I suppose I'll have to live with it. She raised her wine glass. To new beginnings. And to boundaries, apparently. We clinked glasses. It wasn't perfect. Victoria and I would probably never have the warm mother-daughter relationship I'd once imagined. She'd probably always be a little controlling. I'd probably always have to remind her that she didn't get to make decisions for us. But we'd figured out something important, that love without boundaries isn't really love at all. That partnership means standing up for each other, even when it's uncomfortable. That sometimes the smallest wedding makes for the strongest marriage. 6 months later, Michael and I had a casual backyard vow renewal, the party we'd actually wanted all along. 50 people, string lights, a taco truck, wildflowers from the farmer's market. Michael wore khakis. I wore a sundress. Victoria came, brought a fancy dessert, and only made 3 passive-aggressive comments about the casual dress code, which felt like progress. During our vows, Michael said, 6 months ago, I made the best decision of my life. Not marrying you, although that was pretty great too, but choosing you. Choosing us. I promise to keep choosing you, every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I said, 6 months ago, I got on a plane to Vegas because I was tired of being erased. You met me there. You chose me. And we built a marriage based on respect and partnership and the revolutionary idea that we both get a say in our own lives. I can't wait to keep choosing you, keep building with you, keep standing up for us. Everyone clapped. Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Carmen Wolf whistled. And standing there in our friend's backyard, surrounded by the people who actually mattered to us, married to the man who'd finally learned to choose me, I thought. This is what it was supposed to feel like all along. Not perfect. Not fancy. Not Instagram-worthy, or impressive, or calculated to make the right impression. Just real. Just us. Just enough.